Welcome to MediaTel's Future of Diversity panel. And we're here to talk about the word BAME or BAME, as it is now referred to. My name is Niren Patel. I was the CEO of PrimeSite and am now a full-time founder and admin assistant at Media for All, which is a mentoring organization for Black and Asian and other minorities in media. Let me go around and introduce the rest of the panel. Who wants to go next?
I will. I'm Kenna. I'm the CEO of Brand Advance, so a diversity media network.
Yeah, I'm Demi, Abiola, publishing director at PhD Media.
Okay.
Excellent.
So I'm Elizabeth Anyaegbuna. I'm co-founder of 16by9, which is a media agency specializing in TV and video.
Okay.
And lastly, Lydia.
Lydia. So my name is Lydia Amoah. I'm the author of the Black Pound Report and diversity consultant, and often just do some gigs on television just to get the message across about culture and diversity. That's me. Hello,
Excellent.
everyone.
Hello, everyone. So I just thought I kind of started by looking up where the word came from, actually, and what it included. And it's actually quite surprising. So BAME people, according to the government, include Arabic people, asylum seekers, refugees, Asian, British Asians, Blacks, African, Caribbean, Black British people, Chinese, Irish people. I told some of my Irish friends that they were quite surprised, actually. I'm not sure whether they were horrified or surprised, but that's another subject. People of mixed heritage, travelers and gypsies, and people who identify as white other. So it could be white Australians or white Europeans. So I didn't know that, I'm going to say. So that's quite surprising. In terms of background, the word kind of had its roots in the 70s, where we had the whole anti-racist movement. Started off as BME, a term used at that time, a guy called Ted Cantle. He chaired a government review, Cohesion, in 2001, and he thought having a universal term, which was black, to fight against discrimination would help, right? That got challenged by a guy called Tariq Mahmood, and he said this wasn't great for Asians because it was really kind of promoting the Afro-Caribbeans. And anyway, what's come around to is now a mix of BAME. So the key thing I think about BAME is I haven't met anyone when you ask them kind of, tell me about your ethnic background or where you're from, they go, I'm BAME or BAME. So I just thought it'd be useful to start off with, just in terms of a descriptor, what does everyone think of the word, and really, how do you identify yourself? Demi,
me,
you want to go first?
Oh, go on.
Oh, sorry. Chris, you go.
Okay, I'm the gobby one. I just think the word needs to be gone, just like blacklist needs to be gone, just like many other words that we use. That they're just it's not just outdated. Like you've sort of explained it yourself. What does it actually mean? Who are we actually talking about? I come from marketing, like a lot of people on here, and we're meant to, marketing is meant to open itself to the nuances of different demographics, meant to make itself relevant to as wide a population as possible, but also show its relevance to different demographics within that population. This word that means a traveler and an Irish person and a white Russian and a Black Caribbean and an Asian, like, come on, that's just lazy. So when we're putting together a campaign, when we're talking about a demographic, when we're pushing forward or rising a demographic, let's talk about that demographic. Let's see what we're talking about. Otherwise, change can't happen if we don't know what we're actually changing. What are we changing there?
I think it's,
So, Chris, just to follow up on that point, I think one of the things that is obvious is people are worried about using color to describe people. How do you expect to be described?
If you're going to use, I am brown. I am brown. I'm from Black heritage, but I'm brown. I'm mixed ethnicity. My dad is black. My mum is white. Yeah, I'm brown. I say black and brown people, or if I'm talking about that, I would say Irish people. If I was talking about them, I would say Eastern European white. If I was talking about them, yeah, I understand there's an awkwardness to it all, but haven't people been putting black squares on their social to say that they're willing to go through that awkwardness? Isn't that what they're saying? Or is it just this hollow sort of gesture? They're saying we go through systemic institutional racism. They can stick a black square to say we're going to try and be better. We are going to do better. So
do you think, in answer to your question, do you think then, like, is it just essentially a lack of education that some people have, that they're not comfortable about it? And obviously, at the moment in the last couple of weeks, obviously with Black Lives Matters movement, everyone, all of a sudden, the whole world has felt, quite frankly, me personally, I felt a weight lifted off my shoulder in terms of the fact that now I can, quite frankly, talk openly about race and talk openly about some of the issues that, are going on, not just in the workplace, but actually in society. So I think education, and opening people's eyes has helped people. So, in terms of the awkwardness about colour, I think having that discussion about it, because maybe people haven't felt comfortable before having that discussion, will open new doors. Get uncomfortable being comfortable type thing.
Sure. Elizabeth, what's your view on this?
I've got a sort of I definitely don't like the acronym or the term. I don't like it. I mean, it's I don't know many. Well, there are one or two people that do sort of seem to think it's okay or don't mind it. But like you said, having a big, massive group of people all lumped into one place who don't all have the same experiences, background, or even particularly look alike. The only thing they have in common, and even that's arguable if you're rolling in sort of some of the groups, is that they're not that they are in the minority of some sort, and that they, I guess, have experienced some sort of prejudice or suppression or any of those sorts of words. And so it's just a very unhelpful term. But I think more importantly as well, a lot of people don't even know it. They just think it's black and brown, full stop. So you say BAME and you hear it, people go, the BAME people, or the people of the BAME, minority ethnic or black Asian minority ethnic, and then they start talking about black people. So they don't even quite understand it either, which shows that it is problematic, in itself. So, the other thing that particularly perturbs me is the way black is referenced as an ethnicity. Now, I look at black as a consciousness, that's something, definitely, I think you identify with black or brown, you identify this, with that. And I'm okay with that, even though I'm not, I don't, even though I'm not, like you said, I'm brown skinned, so for example, but you identify with that and that's fine. But when I'm not from black, I mean, so you've got black, that's there, the black community, and you're talking about that. And I think that's a conversation when you're talking to that community and then the groups within it. But then you then got Asian, and obviously there are groups within Asian alongside. There are groups. Someone could argue that's Chinese person or someone from Thailand or Vietnam, as well as India and Pakistan, but you've got that, but you can, I guess, talk about it as an ethnicity. And then you then got others. But you've referenced an ethnicity, but somehow you've then got black in the middle. So at the beginning, as if somehow we're from black. We're not from black, we're from where we are, So it's a bit weird. I find that just really, really weird that those two have somehow been combined, So it doesn't make sense in itself, Yeah.
Lydia, do you want to weigh in?
Yeah, I'm just listening and just taking in everyone's points of view. I just love to listen. And just echoing what everybody's said already. I mean, if you look at the breakdown of BAME, like you say, you start off with the B, going to Elizabeth's point. I mean, what is B anyway? What does that actually mean? Just to say B. And then if you think about, okay, so you break it down, you want to say Africa. So how many countries are there in Africa? 54. How many countries are there in Jamaica? How many? You know, and then and how different? We're not all monolithic. We all think differently. And even when you have people that come from the same countries, from the same household. Me and my husband are both from Ghanaian background, British born. Your husband born in Ghana. So we are quite different already. So, and we are both of the same melanin. His melanin's deeper than mine, you know, and there's all of this that goes on. So there's that. And then, actually, you know, going to the point of Asia. So how big is Asia? 48 countries within Asia, from Kazakhstan right the way through to Asia. So you're clumping all these people into this. And then you've got minority. It just kind of, it makes it work. It makes it quite redundant. So you've got 54 countries in Africa, you know, and how many countries someone has to enlighten me and tell me how many are in the Caribbean and Jamaica, and then in Asia as well. All of that, is that a minority to you? Okay, and then we have what's the, you know, economic drive behind. Listen, this can go on forever. So for me, I just think at the end of the day, should we consign the BAME acronym to the bin? That's where I'm at, really. Consign it to the bin, because I think it's quite lazy, really, because we often find that when we are talking, say, if we say about like white people, but then again, what is white? I spoke to my white friend before this, and he said, well, actually, I'm more like yellow, you know, rather than white. And I just thought, okay, well, I know what the kind of black looks like, and I know that each and every one of us here is a different shade of brown, you know. So it's just almost like putting people in these boxes and giving them these labels. So you have to look at, like, culturally, look at back and go way over time and look at where all these descriptions come from. Does that make sense? You know?
Yeah, it does. But I guess my question back to all of you is, and I kind of get it, but there is, you know, going back to the 70s, you know, they kind of used it as a way of in effect uniting minorities. Now, I don't know why the Irish and you know, well, actually, I mean, the Irish, you know, they were having just as difficult conversations on race in the 70s in the UK. So they're probably right, probably not as much so more. So is there not, you know, do we just need the word minorities? But even that seems like a terrible word.
No, that word minority. If you think about words, words have energy and words have power.
Yeah.
So when you think of the word minority, where do you feel in yourself? If you say the words even yourself, how do you feel? Do you feel great when you say it? Ask.
No.
Anybody, ask yourself.
Underrepresented individuals is
perhaps, or even multi-ethnic.
I like multi-ethnic, if I'll be honest, because everyone has an ethnicity, and I like what you said. I like multi. I don't know what you think, Elizabeth, but that's what you know.
I think the power.
Oh, absolutely. Oh, sorry.
Go on, Elizabeth.
Yeah, sorry, Liz. Yeah, so now I do. I think multi, absolutely. I think that's right. It makes sense. And, you know, if you think about, you know, like kids who just see what they see, the innocence. And I remember my kids coming back, and let's say this is when they were going to describe someone. They would you probably use a light brown, dark brown. They would probably say milky color. You know, they never said black or white, frankly, you know, and that was just what they saw. And I get that you have to describe. I think there's a difference. If you're describing someone, literally describing someone, and you need to describe someone including a hue of some sort, you know, within that, then totally get that. And I'll be honest with you, I even identify to the black consciousness because it's there, you know, as opposed to necessarily me saying that I'm my skin, you know, if I'm describing myself physically, but I do identify to that black consciousness and black community. However, just lumping everyone into either black or lumping everyone into, like you say, sort of white is unhelpful. I mean, this whole thing with obviously George Floyd and the whole Black Lives Matter that sort of happened. When you know, the police officer putting his knee on his neck, I'm sure he didn't really consider what ethnicity he was, you know, whether he was potentially African or from Haiti. You know, he just potentially saw, you know, saw just a hue, and acted on that. So it's useful. It's useful for that, because some people make a judgment. They don't care about your ethnicity. So I do then again come back to it. If you're looking at that, that's fine. or any of the other groups, to be honest with you, whether it's Asian and all the elements within that, or any of the others. But if you bunch them all together and then put them all in together, it's no wonder people kind of get a bit confused and think, well, it must be referring to just black and brown people, because I'm not quite sure what else to do with it.
Yeah. So just if we kind of just change tact a bit. So it's generally used to kind of now, I'd say modern language, most people think of it as black and Asians, you know, and probably blacks being black from the Caribbean or black from Africa, with Indians, Pakistanis and Bangladeshis. I think that's probably the current use of it, where most people are using it. And, you know, I think for me, in terms of, have you ever met an advertiser that wants to target all 5 of those groups in one go? Do they have the same consumption habits or same wages? You know, tell me about the audience, really.
The government. The government does now. They didn't used to, but now that all of them demographics you've just mentioned 3 months ago were called low paid, low skilled. So,
yes, that's right.
You know, the Indian lady that worked in Tesco's was called low paid. The African guy that worked, you know, British African guy that drove the bus was called low skilled. Now they're all called key workers. Now we all clap our hands and say thank you very much. You know, now governments want to speak to them. Now brands want to stick them in all of their culturally aware ads, you know. We thank you, we're with you, we're black square, shoulder to shoulder with you. So, yeah, I'm tapping on a little bit because I think it's a really important point that, you know, it's a little bit of what you just said about the word is important. The mindset of people speaking to all them demographics you've just said has changed now because they're all called key workers.
Yeah.
I think
a word. So, yeah. Sorry.
What's interesting though is, I think you're right. The whole narrative needs to change in terms of reaching diverse audiences. I think, you know, it's not some business problem that needs solving to reach these particular people. Because last time I checked, money has no color, right? And obviously, these are all consumers who buy products, and you know, it makes good economics to be as inclusive as possible in what you do. And actually, you know, from a media planning and buying perspective, from an advertising agency, you know, that type of thing needs to be sort of built within the fabric of the comms and the briefs that you give. And I think that needs a sort of change in the mindset, both from the agencies, but also from clients as well, because, you know, it shouldn't be seen as some sort of problem that needs fixing, which I think a lot of the times briefs are, well, we need, all of a sudden we need to target these people. You know, how do we go about it? You know, and it needs to move away from, you know, being more, you know, move away from the unconscious bias and more towards conscious inclusion.
Yeah, I mean,
I was going to say, I was going to push a little bit back on you, Demi, to say, like,
please do.
Do. Because I'd say there is a business problem to solve.
Yeah.
The problem is you're not taking our business. You know, you're not speaking to us. I'd say read Lydia's book, read a report. You know, it's a commercial imperative.
Of course, absolutely.
All right, let me come back to you on that in terms of the business problem. Okay, I think where the business problem comes from is the way that standard campaigns, I think it comes in the measurement. So when you have a TV campaign, obviously you look at Barb. Print is based on something like TGI. So when you look at the Barb audience, which is obviously 5,000 respondents, which obviously makes up the whole TV universe, and only like 350 of them are based upon minority ethnics, however you want to classify it. You know, the game is almost rigged before you even start it, because obviously you can't. You know, how can you create that impact if literally the measurement system doesn't help you? Similarly, again, obviously with print advertising, obviously niche titles that you've got there. You know, TGI doesn't lend itself towards having those niche sort of audiences. So again, when the planners and the buyers are looking at the campaigns, you know, there might be a particular title that could perform really, really well against your ABC One adults or whatever you want to call it, because they're not within the measurement system as a whole. They're not able to affect that, and as such, clients don't. It's not on their radar to think about that. So
But it's taken till now. It's taken to now for it to be. I like your point there. And that makes sense in the sense of like logical thinking, you know, in the sense of, you know, square box thinking. But I know where you're coming from. I really do get that, because everything you say is actually a matter of fact. But then also to go against that, you know, with regards to say what's happened with the George Floyd murder, then all of a sudden, like you say, 5,000 people measured, so on and so forth, the TGI. But then, regardless of that, then they've now said, actually, we've got a problem. There's been deaths on the screen, instant, that to a point where we've become desensitized, okay? That we've seen so many deaths reported day in, day out. This one was really slow, and we watched it. And I think that must be the thing. I don't know, because why this particular thing? Why this particular murder or injustice has got everybody speaking in the way they have, and the concentration, and all of the, you know, all of the agencies. I know Chris is really busy. You've grown exponentially, you know, and all of us. I think all of us here, have you not had the most phone calls that you've ever had in your life?
Yeah.
You know, totally. All of a sudden, so there was an outside knowledge. These organisations knew already that they needed to be having, you know, that basically there's wealth in diversity, you know, and there is, and it's always been that way. And if we look throughout history properly, like way back, because before you can look forward to a certain degree, you do have to look backwards, you know. And if you look at the foundation of what the United Kingdom, Europe, and around the world are built upon, what are they built upon? You know, to the very way your butt cheek's sitting on, to the time that you go to the toilet, to the time that you have a heart operation. You know, the first person to create a heart transplant came from, if you want to say, African Caribbean descent. Does that make sense? But these educational things are left out of the system. So that's why this is a bigger subject than the 4-letter acronym. But I've taken it worldwide. So I've taken it worldwide. Sorry,
Can I ask you a question then?
Of course.
And obviously this might be relevant for you as well, Chris. Do you think then, with the whole fact that obviously now diversity is on the agenda across the board, do you think one of the, obviously I'm gonna put my publishing hat on, obviously, because that's my bread and butter, is the fact that within the programmatic and digital sphere, obviously the thing about inclusion and exclusion lists in terms of like keyword searches, how do you think that will affect affect publishers going forward?
Well, you go first, Chris.
Okay. So I've obviously built a business because the rest of yous, and by yous I mean the advertising industry, thought this was never going to be a thing. I've been gobbing off about it on stages from Cannes. I've been sat at a table with you, Nareem, on the beach. I don't know if you can remember, when I was sat with Clear Channel and you were sat there as well. I've been saying there will be a time when you will need these audiences. All of your clients will come to you and say, I want to speak to them, and you won't know how to do it. Now, I'm going to blow smoke up my own backside. My revenue went up 400% when everybody else was going on furlough, because everybody all of a sudden said, I need to speak to them. Now, TGI is not fit for purpose then. If it cannot bring up an audience that speaks to me, I've got 2 kids, one's mixed race, one's white. If TGI is only going to ever get you near my white daughter and not bring you near my mixed race son, then it's not fit for purpose anymore. It is not fit for purpose. If it doesn't have all the publications that speak to every demographic in our beautiful country, I was in the army for nearly 10 years. I went to Iraq, I went to Afghan, I've fought for the Queen and country. I love our nation.
Yeah,
I'm part of it. I am part of it. I have army tattoos all the way up my arm. I am part of this nation. But there's a system that media planners use that doesn't have media that speaks to me and has 5,000 people and says that that's reach. Like, it's just not fit for purpose now, and it needs to change.
Definitely.
And hopefully,
So guys, before we, because I'm worried about time. I think just to try and end on something positive. Which I think
it's not timed on already, is it?
It's not time already. Oh my
I
God.
wanted, I
Media
wanted
Town,
to,
we needed an hour. We need an
we
hour
needed,
next
I
time,
know.
we
Media
needed, we
Town.
needed a day.
You can't
So
do it.
I just
And I
wanted
just
you
say
to
one
kind
thing
of,
can I just say one thing back to what Chris said?
yeah.
Just one thing. I'll keep it. I promise. I promise. I promise. I'll keep it short and sweet. You know, I remember 20 years ago being in Kingston. I went to Bentall's in Kingston with my best friend who happens to be Spanish, and Spanish Irish. And I said, look. She bought her face powder, and I just said, right, what's there for me? And then she said, no, we've only got normal colours here. You have to go to London. It wasn't a funeral service afterwards. I'm sure she's still breathing, but that's what happened. Honestly, no. And I just remember my heart sunk. So did that fall into the TGI and the Barb thing? Do you see what I mean? I mean, it's just.
Oh, Lydia, I can match you on that. I actually worked for a very established brand, and I won't name them, but at the time it was made a few years ago. They have sort of changed things now, and I never used to put any foundation or any powder on at all. And the lady who was the manager pulled me up and told me I needed to put said powder on because everyone was all dressed up as you sort of had the makeup on and so on. You needed to showcase the product, and literally I turned around and said to her, but there's none for me. There's none for my tone. And I there was none for my tone.
Oh yes.
The shade it stopped one lighter than my tone.
Wow.
And she just looked at me and had nothing to say.
Just like
so obviously things have moved on. We have more product out there, but that's the craziness of it, where I couldn't buy the product that I was actually selling for me. But she was ignorant enough not to actually even recognize that.
But can you imagine, it's a good thing that you're a confident woman as well, because psychologically that could really actually hurt someone day in, day out.
Yeah.
Not only are you making that brand money, but at the same time they kind of cater towards you. But at the same time you're selling to an audience that they're catering for, and they can't cater for you. But now, fast track now, look at L'Oreal, 40 Shades, how much money they're making? Millions. Fenty, using the face of
hair
of Rihanna. Oh yeah, using the face of Rihanna. So she's basically Louis Vuitton. Not many people know that is Louis Vuitton, so they're making so much money right now. So obviously it goes to show you. Go back to Chris's point, back to all our points. Demi, you got to help us here, because on the publishing side, because this arena is. I'm not putting. I'm putting on your shoulders.
I know
you got the subject up. I think you brought fire to our bellies now.
So you cut me. I'm a new publisher.
Right, guys.
Sorry, Naren.
I've
taken over here. I apologise.
We've got to end on something positive. So anybody got any ads that are running or been running recently where they think they're doing it well? So not the one that shows every Indian in the newsagent. So you've seen those ads, or every black person driving a bus. So
I think government COVID is doing quite well at the moment. I mean, I'm biased in that we're helping them, but they allowed us
to the question.
but go on.
Because it's the creative is specific, so it's for the demographic that it's for, and there is other creative for the other demographic. It's the media buying now includes a split out. This is our creative. Could you please buy media? Black, brown orientated, Asian orientated, Eastern Europeans in the UK orientated. So they've done their own segmentation. So I would give that one. I don't know if anybody's got another one.
Well,
anyone else?
I'll flip it a little bit, and this is before all sort of this has blew up. Really, I liked Nationwide, because what they dared to do was actually challenge in a time when everything was all not really tuned in to this topic now, and they dared to feature their staff who are in their ads, and then feature the vitriol and stuff that they got off the back of that in social and everywhere else, and because they were featuring people of color within their ads. And I have to give them kudos for that, really. I thought that was very brave at the time, because they were bringing that message forward. This is just an employee, just a person. We featured him in the ad. There's nothing out of the ordinary. You know, he was in a bus, not driving it. You know, doing his thing, and the amount of stuff that he got. So this is the everyday pressures and that they were going, but they would dare to put out. So I would have to name Nationwide. They do need to look at their board, by the way, but you know,
that's another. You can't end
work in progress.
I did have to look. Jesus,
You know, I
taking
did
you to
have
a
a
new
little
place
look.
now.
You know, yeah.
I'll be a bit biased, and I will choose one of my own clients. One of my own clients became because of the way they portrayed family time, with obviously not just being about heterosexual couples, but about obviously gay couples as well. And I thought that was really nice.
Yeah,
that was
good.
I agree, because I'll just take the conversation elsewhere. So let's just.
Is it our 30 minutes? Are we up already? This is
I think we're nearly up an hour.
Yeah, it says 53 minutes.
So really, what's the consensus? Yes to BAME or no? Really?
No.
No.
I think it's a definite no.
It's definite
and I think multicultural.
Yes.
Without the minority at the end of it,
yes,
is probably a great word.
All day long.
Yeah,
so we like. Demi, do you like multicultural?
I like it if you like it.
I like it.
The BAME. So we're basically saying BAME's dead. BAME
I'm gonna have
is
to go and
dead.
change. I'm gonna have to go and change.
I think my earphones are dead. That's what I think.
BAME is binned.
BAME is binned.
Yeah.
BAME is binned.
All right, and we have our new word from today moving forward, which is
multicultural. Please.
Multicultural.
Oh, I love that. Because we are all multicultural. We are really.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Excellent, guys. Thanks for that.